Hey, it's Friday. I'm home from the hospital. I've been home for over a week. I'm sorry that there's a glare on my glasses. I will have to figure that out. Just overlook it. And, okay, so today is Friday Feels. And, I guess I'm going to talk about how I feel today. I'm still tired. I mean, really tired. Send some good healing energy and some prayers. I didn't get the camera scope done. I know, my glasses are lopsided. Oh gosh. So, next week we'll be working on getting that done. I'm going to see my regular doctor. Friday Feels. Oh, yeah. Subscribe, like, make a comment, give some blue hearts, or purple. I like purple. And to my one and only that I know is going to watch this, Pam, I love you. Hi. I wished it was where we could see each other. I do miss our times together. So, love my laptop. I've been studying the Starseed Oracle cards, and I made me a cheat sheet so that, because I'm new to this. I mean, I've been to psychics. God, I can't count how many times I've been to psychics. And my son's father's grandmother, everybody said she had a gift, and she was, she could read you. And I must have been about maybe 17 when I met her. And I didn't believe in that stuff. My mom went to psychics and all that. I didn't believe that stuff. It's not. And anyhow, she said for me, she held my hand and she said, I can't do a reading for you. And of course, you know, I'm thinking, yeah, but it's because you can't. You don't know how. And she said that she couldn't do a reading for me because I had a sense about me. I thought it was all bull malarkey, you know. And she gave me the name and number of a man to call in another town. I never called that man. But yeah, I went to, you know, psychic fairs, fortune tellers, done it all. Called the psychic line, done it all. And so I really didn't put a lot into it, but I have bought tarot cards in the past and tried to learn them, and was going to church pretty frequently, and you know that was frowned upon, so I tossed them. I got rid of them. I didn't want, just the devil didn't want nothing to do with it. So anyhow, I saw the two pretty deck of cards, and I thought, hey, those are pretty neat looking, and I want to, yeah, just, you know, my channel is about encouragement and inspiration and empowerment and painting. Yeah, no, I don't paint as much as I should. I'll get to it. Just come along for the ride. Stick with me here, baby. So I got star seeds, and I had heard about star seeds, cards. I didn't know a whole lot about them. And apparently, and I may be wrong on this because I'm still learning about starseeds. Seeds are souls that have lived in other dimensions and other universes. And you could be a starseed and don't know. I think I could be a starseed. And the reason why that, when I was a little girl, my dad caught me. It was my dad, and my granny. I remember them asking me questions. I must have been really little. And they asked me who I was talking to. And I said, Agnes. And they were wondering where I got the name Agnes from. And years later, and I mean many years later, because I've been to the family cemetery many times over the years. And I happen to remember not too long ago about them asking me. It was since I've been trying to understand the starseed cards. And I am not going to memorize 54, so y'all are just going to have to let me do my cheat sheet, okay? It'll still be good. If it resonates with you, great. If it don't, it don't. It's just getting videos out there, and I think that the cards, not, they bring awareness, they bring guidance, they bring, help you with spirituality. The answers are within. You just kind of like need a nudge here and there. You need to hear the right words, and you're on the right path. Or that was right. Okay, so anyhow, back to Agnes. Okay. When I went over to my cousin's house and we were talking about growing up and how much fun it was, how much more simpler it was, what a blessing it was for us to have had the upbringing that we had. We were three little girls that ran all over the farm, and it was their farm on one side, my granny's farm, the homestead across from my granny's farm, and we were everywhere, and they were anywhere from 5 to 10 acres. The land behind my grandmother's belonged to one of her siblings. The land up by the cemetery on the back belonged to one of her siblings. So we were all over the place. And the only neighbors we had were up the road a bit, and they were mine and my cousin's grandmother's brother and his wife and family. There may have, there was a man that lived way past that. So nobody was coming back there that shouldn't have been back there. Nothing was going to be done to us. We were safe. And so here we go back to Agnes with the fourth term. We were talking about all these things when we did Queen for the day, my cousin and I, a couple of Fridays back. I said, we were talking about knowing that ghosts, there are ghosts, I'm sorry, they're out there. There's spirits all around us. And you can believe what you want, but I was very skeptical till, an encounter happened to me a couple of times, a few times, several times. And I told my cousin, I said, you know, Granny has 3 little girls buried up there. And she said, oh yeah, that's right. There are several babies buried up there. Her mom has a baby buried up there. And I said, you know, one of the little girls buried up there, there was 3 sisters together. My grandmother lost 3 children in a span of like a year and a half. And 2 of them died like 3 or 4 months apart. So they're buried up there, and they have beautiful little headstones with lambs on top. And one of the daughters, my dad's sister, my aunt's, her name was Agnes. And I told my cousin Darlene, I said, you know, I've always had this with picking up things, knowing things, feeling things, sixth sense, intuition. I've always had it. And I said, but I remember being asked who I was talking to or playing with. And I said Agnes. And I remember they kept asking me questions. I couldn't have been no more than 3 or 4 years old. And then one day it hits me, oh my God, I haven't had Agnes buried up there. And she would have been around my age. And I was playing with her or talking to her. So that's kind of, I'm on a spiritual kick now, not a religious kick. I don't need religion. I've already been through hell. I know it exists. You can't scare me. Okay, so what should we talk about tonight? You know, y'all could help me out. We could talk about domestic violence. Okay. You or someone you know is involved in a domestic violence situation. You just might not know it. And had anyone said that I would ever be in a domestic violence situation, I would have laughed in your face. I was tomboyish. I was always getting into fights that really weren't my fights to be in, but I was always taking up for the underdog, and there was a couple that really was my fights, but yeah. I wasn't afraid of nobody or nothing, and I meet a guy, and he was the most gentle Southern gentleman, very polite, very mannerly. Seemed like he had it together. And we date. I think it would have been out on a couple of dates. It wasn't enough that I felt like we were dating. we'd been out a couple of times. And I had made plans to go visit, uh, to go hang out with one of my former boyfriends. We were going out to clubs, but he was doing his thing, I was doing my thing, so nothing was going on there. And when I got home, there was several calls on the answering machine from him, wanting me to come to his house as soon as I got in. And I got in about 2 o'clock. I didn't really feel like going over there. And I did go over there. And he was asleep on the couch. And it was a summer evening. And he was really mad that I had went out with a friend of mine that I used to date. And he made a derogatory name. He called me a derogatory name. And I got up and I got to the door. And this was an old-timey house. And it had one of those old screen wooden doors. And when I went to open it, he pushed it back and closed it. And he apologized and apologized and apologized. And I remember thinking, okay, he's had too much to drink, in his right mind. I overlooked it. But if you ask me today, when did I become a victim of domestic violence? That's the day I became one. Because I should have kept going. Okay, he was Jekyll and Hyde. You could not ask for a more polite, more well-mannered person. And then he was the devil. And I was in the relationship for about 3 years. And after the first 6 months, I was trying to get out of it. If you're in a domestic violence situation, get out. Don't stay. Get out. Contact your local domestic women's shelter and get help and get out, because it escalates. You see, he went from calling me a name to holding me down on my bed and putting a cigarette out in my face. I couldn't make a noise. My son was in the other room, and I didn't want my son to see or be involved. And he was a teenager. He was 13. And I'm telling you the story because someone out there needs to hear it. So Friday Feels today was about a domestic violence situation I survived. And how I survived it was I finally had enough I had a friend of mine was a deputy sheriff, and she helped me with the women, getting the one in touch with the women's shelter. And the women's shelter took me through the whole process. And I got a restraining order, and I moved. I moved as, he didn't know where I was. He didn't know. He didn't know. And I made it out alive, but I almost didn't. And he almost didn't. Guns were brought out. I shot at his truck. My son shot at his truck. Okay. So if you're in a situation where you are being disrespected, being called names, let me tell you how this works. It goes from disrespect, name calling, emotional abuse. Then it's a shove. It's a grab you by the arms. And then it's real serious violence. So my message today is, please seek help. Don't stay. It's not going to get better. Doesn't matter how many times he swears up and down that he loves you and he'll never do it again. He did it once. He did it twice. He did it 3 times. He did it 4, 5, 6, 7. I can't remember how many times. If they do it once, I can assure you, number 2 is going to happen. And if number 1 was bad, number 2 is going to be a lot worse. So this is my message. I felt compelled to discuss this. There's several types of domestic violence. And we're going to go over some of those. You can't see. I got my computer here so I can look up everything. I've already got the show pegged out. Okay. It's outlined out. All I got to do is click on it, and I didn't do that one. Usually I copy and paste, add notes, and put it in the file. Oh, well, geez. Well, that one I didn't keep. Emotional, physical, financial, and sexual. Isolation. Don't want you near your family and friends. Controlling. I survived. I was only a victim for a little while. I survived because I got out. And I told his father that he needed, we were in our 30s, but his father was still, I guess, hadn't cut the apron strings, I don't know. Anyhow, we were in court, and his father came up to me when we were on a break, and I said, you need to keep your son away from me, because one of us is not going to make it, and I'm hellbound and determined to live. I was a correctional officer, and I wasn't making an idle threat. I didn't want him around. I didn't want anything to do with him. I wanted to live. And I was going to live. And his father assured me that his son would stay away from me. And I didn't see him again for several years. And at that point, I had healed, and he got arrested for kidnapping his former girlfriend. And I knew the city cop that was bringing him into the magistrate. And the cop, the friend called me to let me know what was going on. And I went and decided that I was going to face him. And as they were bringing him around the corner, I popped up in front of him. He was handcuffed. There was 2 officers. And they stopped for me, so that I could say to him, how's it feel? And prior to that, I had already went into the magistrate's office and told them who I was. And that he came for money, and he needed to set the bond high enough to where he couldn't get out. And if he didn't, I was going to the newspaper office and telling my story about what happened to me. And I know that he abused his wife, who he was married to before we started dating. So he had a pattern of domestic violence. So contact a women's shelter. Confide in a friend that can help you, and get out. Okay? It's not worth it. That's not love. That is not love. That's not intimacy. It just gets worse. So, sorry it was a bummer day, but apparently that's what I was guided to talk about. And there's several, you can put in a women's shelter and put in the city and town, state that you live in on a Google search. File charges, get a restraining order, and move where they don't know where you are. And I know in this economic climate, that's going to be hard because it's rough out there. Okay, so I'm getting it back together. And I think tomorrow we're going to do a walk and talk and show you my little bitty town that I live in. Yeah, there's some slummy areas, but there's some good areas too. So, thanks for watching. Subscribe, like, make a comment. I got a baby girl's wedding to pay for, and I need money. So, see you next week. See you tomorrow. Goodbye.